Let's go over how to assign a value to a variable in C. It's going to be pretty straightforward. What you do is you start with with a data type. In this case, we're going to do integer. And then next comes what's called an identifier. An identifier is a fancy name for the name of a variable. In this case, we're going to do example. Example is the identifier of the variable. And then next we do the equal sign, which is going to be called the assignment operator in this context. And then next we can do a value, for example, 50. And then what this will do is it'll create an area in memory, which is 4 bytes long. It's going to create it on the stack, which is 4 bytes long, because an integer is 4 bytes in size, and it's going to save the value 50 at that in that memory space, and we will constantly refer to it by the identifier example. The identifier example is going to refer to that area in memory. And then it's important to note that if you don't give a value, the example variable is going to have a random value depending on what was at that memory space previously before the program was run. And so what this means is that the example variable, it could have the value 0, it could have the value 1, it could have the value 100 or 1000 or just some other random value when we run our program. And this is because we did not zero initialize our variable. When I say zero initialize, I just mean give a default value of 0, which is a good practice. Which is good practice when you're working with C or C++. It's just to again choose zero initialize your variables, because when you create them without a value, they could have a random value at their memory space, and you could just forget to change that. So it's always good to, if you don't know the value of your variable yet, it's always good to just give it a default value of 0 or some other value that you want to be default. And so another way we can initialize variables, especially with arrays, is through uniform initialization. Uniform initialization is specifically targeted towards arrays. If we have an array of four integers, what we can do is, if we want to give these values a default value, we do the assignment operator, which is going to be equal sign, and then we use two curly braces. What this is going to do is it's going to create the array in memory with specific values that we assign. So we can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And so what this is going to do is, when it creates this array of 4 integers, it's going to see the first value 1. That's going to be the first index, and the second index, third index, and fourth index. These are going to be the values assigned to those indices. And so it's also important to note that if you do uniform initialization without the maximum amount of values per index, then the last index in this example is going to be a random value. And so because we only did three values, but there's going to be four indices, the fourth index could have a random value. So let's go ahead and look at that right now. So we can do 4 and then I equals 0, I less than 4 plus I, and then we can do print f, and then we're going to do digit, and then we can do example at the ith index. And so let's go ahead and see what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, and 0, because the 0 is because we didn't give a fourth value for this array to be to be default initialized with. And so that's just most of the ways that you can initialize values or initialize variables in C.